right, hello everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Andy Addresses Audience for the first time since 2020, and there's a lot we need to talk about. So, in this video, we are going to talk about 5 things that we need to discuss. So, number one, we're going to discuss possible suspect of interest in the PinePowerLI cyberbullying scandal. Number two, we are going to discuss trying to prevent another COVID shutdown. Number three, we're going to discuss transportation shortages and how it's going to affect our economy. Number four, we're going to talk about how the socialists are secretly trying to make Eric Adams the mayor of New York City. And then I'm just going to quickly talk about me going back to work. So let's get into our first topic, and that is an update in the controversial PinePowerLI cyberbullying scandal. If you are not aware of what's been going on, a couple months ago, PinePowerLI came out and admitted that somebody has been cyberbullying him. Now, all we know from a YouTube story post and a grainy picture you're seeing on the screen right now is we possibly know who this person is. Now, for privacy reasons, we are not going to give the name of this certain individual, because right now the Nassau County Police are looking into a possible vandalism incident that happened at the Arby's in Hicksville back on August 1st. In this incident, PinePowerLI, aka John Michnow, was called a very degrading name, which I am not even going to say on this video, because then YouTube can claim I said something out of the ordinary. They could claim I have to take the video down, and trust me, I'm not going to do that. So there is photographic proof of it. I had to blur out the image so that way, again, it's out there for public domain. I mean, it was clearly spotted on a dining room table at the Arby's in Hicksville back on August 1st. What we do know right now is the Nassau County Police for that area, I don't know what precinct it is, but they are looking at surveillance footage of the incident that took place back on August 1st. The manager of the Arby's is cooperating with the investigation, which is good news. So I'm hoping that this person who has been cyberbullying the PinePowerLI account, hopefully this person will be caught to the fullest extent of the law. We know that, again, it's been an ongoing battle for years. Other YouTube channels have been created. Maybe this could lead into a big outcry of support for PinePowerLI. I would hope that would be the case, that maybe if this one incident's being investigated by the Nassau County Police, then there's a possibility that the FBI could look into a possible bigger cyberbullying incident that's been going on for years. I would hope that maybe the Long Island Bureau and Suffolk County could look into it, because if there's a big pattern here, then something good could happen. So for PinePowerLI's sake, let's just hope this first incident gets solved, and maybe there's a bigger connection that the Nassau County Police could cooperate with the FBI, because the FBI can legally get involved in an incident where, if it's multiple occurrences, there's a possibility. So let's hope that there is some good news coming in the next couple of days. Again, I certainly would hope that this is a vandalism incident, considering that this was, of course, private property owned by the same franchisee of Arby's, who, by the way, operates the Arby's here in Fresh Meadows. Maybe something good could come out of it. So let's see what happens on that end. Again, here is a photograph of the suspect that was taken by the victim a few months ago at the Hicksville train station. So this is in connection to the vandalism at the Arby's on 106, 107 in Hicksville on Sunday, August 1st. The Nassau County Police 2nd Precinct have this person at this particular moment as a suspect of interest. They're not classifying this person as the main suspect. They just want to take him in for questioning to figure out if there again is a bigger case that the hopefully the FBI office in Suffolk can look into. But in the meantime, if you know the whereabouts of the suspect, we'll just give you a quick description from this grainy picture. He is a tall Latino male. In this picture, you can tell that he was last seen wearing a white t-shirt. It appears to be gray sweatpants and black sneakers. So if you have any information, you can call the Nassau County Crime Stoppers Unit at 1-800-244-TIPS 8477. Again, if you have any information and you call this phone number, let them know that you have information regarding the vandalism incident that took place at the Arby's on 106, 107 back on Sunday, August 1st, involving PinePowerLI. Our second topic, we're going to discuss a potential second COVID shutdown here in the United States and what could potentially lead up to it. So if you're not aware, which I'm sure many people are, there's a new strain of the coronavirus going around called the Delta variant, which has been first detected in India about 3 months ago. And what happened is India's cases are starting to go down. Mainstream media forgot about India. Now they're focused here in the States about it. And they're claiming this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, which is true. Just recently, we have found out that there are a few people who have passed away after taking the coronavirus vaccine from the emergency use authorized companies, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Now, at this particular moment, in terms of vaccines, we're still waiting to hear if AstraZeneca and Novavax will be approved. Currently, at the moment, we do not know if any of those vaccines will be approved because AstraZeneca has some controversy with, health defects just like Johnson & Johnson. But in the past month, beginning of July to end of July, we have noticed a huge spike overall in coronavirus cases. Very scary, very alarming thought, and more people are getting tested. And the shocking reality yesterday was that President Biden's 70% goal of Americans getting one dose pretty much happened a month late. He said July 4th. Well, he's almost 30 days late. So, here we are. You have Dr. Anthony Fauci claiming that we are not going to go to a shutdown. You have the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki saying the same thing. And it's just a scary thought wondering, well, there's a lot of hoopla, and there should be, over this Delta. I get it. I understand where things are happening. And it's just a scary thought. I will admit, since I started to regularly go out since June, I've been noticing my city is slowly coming back. And yes, I will admit, looking at Midtown Manhattan, it looks normal to me. It looks like it was pre-pandemic somewhat. tourists are back, which is good. Things are getting crowded, which is good. We welcome a tourist to come back because, again, we want the sales tax revenue to increase. In fact, Newsday, I read that sales tax in the second quarter for both Nassau and Suffolk went up. So you're seeing the economy slowly coming back, but there's a chance that, there is a variant of this coronavirus that can't be stopped by our current vaccines. We may have to shut down again, which will be very bad. I don't want to give any speculation on what the variant could be because that wouldn't be right. But there's a possibility. And that's why you have currently at the moment Pfizer and Moderna looking into a booster. It's good. In fact, Israel just approved a third booster of the COVID-19 shot for residents 60 plus. You have other countries looking into it, but yet the United States is not looking into it, which is kind of alarming. Pfizer has already added extra protection for this Delta variant, which is good. We want to see more of that. But again, not enough people are getting vaccinated, and because of that, we're in a very tough predicament. And, there's no forecasting on when a shutdown could happen again. But I'm just going to tell you my personal opinion. We go into another economic shutdown. This country is going to see the worst economic collapse possibly since the Great Depression. That's how alarming this is. Now, the bigger companies like Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, they're going to be fine. Amazon will be fine too. But all the small mom and pop shops, all the restaurants that aren't big franchisees, they're not going to be able to survive a second shutdown. They won't. They're all going to close. It's going to be very scary to think about that. And I hate to fear the worst, but we go into another shutdown. We could end up like socialist communist Venezuela. Except, we don't have a Nicolas Maduro telling us what to do. It's going to be ourselves that caused this problem. Because we didn't get vaccinated. We were bickering with each other. Oh, it's not approved by the FDA. It's not fully approved yet. It was only emergency use authorization. Imagine if there wasn't an emergency use authorization. Then we would be in a whole lot worse of a situation. Okay? It would be much worse than what we are in now. 10 times worse. So, sorry to compare a COVID shutdown to socialist communist Venezuela, but the food chain could get really impacted. Do you know in Venezuela, it's so hard to even get basic groceries? It was like that even before the pandemic. The people revolted. And we go into another shutdown, we could have a revolt. Look what's going on in Australia right now. I have a friend who's near Sydney and she's in lockdown. She's in lockdown. She can't go to work. And she thought that she never would have to. She had it so easy last March and April. Because in Australia, they go by, certain areas. And where they shut down. And Delta has become a problem in Australia that Australia's been in lockdown since June. And just last week, they announced that Sydney is going into another lockdown for another month. So, people are going to revolt if you're going on a shutdown. So, what I would do right now, and, what I would plan on doing is keep everything in your savings for as much as you can, if you can. Because if you don't, then you're going to be in big trouble. We didn't have a chance to prepare for a shutdown, okay? Last year we just didn't. So, let's all go into reality that we have to prepare for every situation that's possible. And right now, I don't think we're prepared. I just don't think we are honestly prepared right now. So, the only way we can try to prevent this, again, just get your vaccine. Alright? Anyone 12 and older can get it. Right now. We have so many people who just don't believe they should get it. Well, I'm going to say it right now. In all these low vaccine states, people are starting to wake up, which is good. So do your part. And if you don't, here's the question that I want to propose to you. And this is what Ronald Reagan would ask himself as well. A great American president who gave us stability in the world, was prepared for anything, and would know how to communicate. Do you want to go back to March and April of last year? Do you want to be locked in your home, knowing when you can't go out again? That's my message. Just get the vaccine. Only takes 5 seconds to have it in your arm. And by law, and this is a fact, some states let you take off the day after you get your second dose of the vaccine. New York is one of those states. So, it's time to get vaccinated. This is right now is the right time to do it. Maybe it was a different story in May or the mid to early part of June. But this is August. We still have time to fix this, possibly. Not everything, but possibly prevent us from ending up being like Caracas, Venezuela. Okay? And trust me, a lot of Venezuelans, are going to take me in the wrong way. Well, look. All right? You bought this on yourselves. The United States could do the same thing. We can act all dumb and ignorant. Except we're in two different situations. We're in a health problem. Venezuela had its own government problem. And, by the way, I'll prove how bad things are in Venezuela. In fact, I can prove how bad the vaccine rate is there. I can literally go on my iPad right now. Venezuela, at this current moment, they are first starting to get an uptick of people vaccinated. Only 10% of the Venezuelan population has received one dose. So, thank you, Nicolas Maduro. In fact, let me just ask Siri. Siri, is Nicolas Maduro still the president of Venezuela? Yep, he's still the president. He is still the president of Venezuela. It claims that he is. So, there you go. Okay, now this brings us to our third topic. We talked about how we could try to prevent a second COVID shutdown. Now let's talk about the current economy. Travel shortages. Now, I'm sure you're aware of it by now. Every impact has been felt, from rental cars to airlines to public transportation. So let's start off with the car rental companies. Right now, Avis, Hertz, and Enterprise, the three major companies that I can think of at the top of my head, are seeing major shortages of rental cars. Because back in 2020, all these companies sold off their fleet of vehicles, and now they're trying to repurchase a lot of newer vehicles. So not enough, supply for the demand. And it's a very scary thought that as travel is starting to boom, not enough rental cars are available, just as the price of gasoline keeps going up thanks to Joe Biden's inflation policy. And I'll just quickly mention, this time last year, we were paying $1.77 under President Donald Trump. Now we are paying nearly $3 a gallon. So that's an interesting factor. Then we're going to move on to the airline industry. Spirit Airlines, and I will bring up the fact that I have two close personal friends of mine who are friends of my ex-girlfriend, by the way. My friend is stuck in Florida right now. He can't get home. It's a very scary thought. Spirit Airlines is canceling so many flights because there's not enough pilots, not enough staff to literally help passengers. Not even enough at baggage claim. So a lot of the airline industry, not just Spirit, but other airlines have been impacted too. This has been going on for months. Again, the law of the land, supply and demand. Demand's up, supply is down. That's what happens. Just like public transportation, I have an exclusive I'm going to bring up in this video. A major depot here in Queens, at College Point, I found out from a driver, this was when I was on the QM5 last week, I found out 40 drivers are not being able to fill runs at that depot in Queens. Constantly, I get bombarded with emails from the MTA claiming a lot of express buses are not going to run. Not just at College Point, but other depots too. Sometimes in certain subway lines, because there's not enough, train conductors. What happens is, some subway lines you have to wait longer times. Just yesterday on the A line, long wait times. Very, very, very long. So, not a good situation. Not doing very well. And, again, law of the land, supply and demand. So there's a hiring freeze at the MTA just got lifted. And bottom line is, when you have unemployment that is actually giving you more money than doing a basic job, people aren't going to go back to work. So I hate to say it, but I keep hearing rumors that there might be a fourth stimulus package, which, in my opinion, would be a big mistake. It's bad enough that we're trying to raise the debt ceiling again, which would be a problem as it is. But I keep hearing rumors that President Biden's trying to extend the unemployment benefits, which would be kind of a problem. These Democrats want to keep raising the unemployment. Well, you know what you should do? I don't know, maybe start lowering it. Trying to get people to go back to work. You know, if we're not going into another shutdown, hopefully, maybe do that. Get people back in the transportation industry. The pilots don't want to work. The people who do baggage claim don't want to work. Stewardesses don't want to work. Because there's an incentive from unemployment, which is not good. We need more people back in the workforce. We've got to start making up the losses. So, I know I rambled on about that, but we need to move on to the next topic at hand. Now that we are discussing politics, is an update in the race for New York City mayor. So, quite obvious, we knew that Eric Adams, the Democratic nominee, is being endorsed by the outgoing mayor, Bill de Blasio, which the socialists are very happy about that. AOC's probably happy about that. All out crazy. She's probably happy about that because she's assuming that Eric Adams is going to keep the same Bill de Blasio policies. Eric Adams can just run his mouth, claim to be that he's going to be tough on crime. You have Governor Cuomo polarized by this person. You have the MTA literally in a committee meeting 2 weeks ago. The head of the finance committee meeting is assuming that Eric Adams is going to be the mayor. But yet, there's been a noticeable trend in the mainstream media here in New York City that Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, is getting a lot of attention. Which is interesting. Which is a good thing for Curtis Sliwa. Now, the important thing to note about Eric Adams being endorsed by Bill de Blasio, again, the socialists are very happy about that. In fact, I brought up AOC. She was actually in a meeting with him in Washington over the weekend. And I'm sure Humani Williams, our stay woke public advocate, is happy about that too. Which, the public advocate wants to keep defunding the police. Now, you know he's going to win because there's likely no good Republican challenger to face him. But remember this. When the office of the public advocate was created during the Giuliani era, Giuliani was still able to get his agenda done. So who's to say that Humani Williams could just be a vocal piece to the socialist movement and Curtis Sliwa can actually do what's good for the people of New York City and actually bring back law and order to New York City. And bring back the quality of life we had almost 30 plus years ago. The quality of life that we deserve. Safe streets. Not having to worry about crime. Not having to worry about homeless being everywhere. In Manhattan, per se. Manhattan as a whole borough has more homeless per capita than any of the other 5 boroughs combined. And what's scary about Midtown these days, and what I've noticed even before pre-pandemic, is that Midtown has become like San Francisco. Homeless everywhere. And what's even scary is there's a section of the West Side Highway in Manhattan where they're trying to claim a new Skid Row, like Los Angeles. So it's a very scary thought. And, the socialists do not realize one thing, is that, and they're not going to realize this, and they'll maybe get scared when they hear this fact, is that at this particular moment, because you have an African American Democratic candidate and you have a Italian Republican, doesn't this remind you of two previous elections from 1989 and 1993? At this particular moment, Queens is undecided. The mainstream media is not going to tell you this, but I am. And believe it or not, I actually got a hold of Mayor Giuliani last week on the phone. Don't ask how I did it. I have ways of doing it because, again, I always tell people I pull strings and always try to do it. I've been doing it since COVID started. But the mayor and I agreed that Queens is a borough. You've got to flip. And I have audio of the phone call. In fact, he let me record it because it was on the radio. So I'll put the audio up by the end of the week. So you got to realize one thing. A lot of the undecided votes can come from Astoria. One area in Queens that has the largest Greek population of any town in the United States. Look it up. Top 5 at least. A lot of them are undecided voters. And Mayor Giuliani told me this. They can decide the fate of Queens. So I'm hoping in October, as a volunteer for Curtis Sliwa, that I will be making my way to Astoria. I'm hoping on a weekend I can plan something with him and his campaign, because we've got to target the undecided voters. Because, think about it. This is the third time in New York City, in our whole history in an election, that we have an African-American Democrat taking on an Italian Republican. Think about that. It's happened twice. We all remember the old Lincoln-Giuliani elections, don't we? Don't we? Anything can happen. And then the other factor you're going to have is the Asian vote. And why am I bringing up the Asian vote? Well, remember this. I'm in the northeast section of Queens. And typically, they favor Democrats. Most cases. But there is a chance, because a lot of them are earning maybe $90,000 to $100,000 a year median home income, compared to Astoria, which kind of has $20,000, $30,000 less. You have to put into the fact that you're looking at a situation where my area, Fresh Meadows, which has a Democrat base that outfavors Republicans by a large number. In fact, I have proof that I'm the only Republican on my whole block. I'm not going to say how I get my records, but I have proof. Literally from start to end of my block. So it's a very tough battle. Very tough battle. And it just creates something interesting to think that, there are people who have lived in this community for years. A lot of them are Asian. They probably remember the old Dinkins-Giuliani elections. And they're thinking to themselves, this is deja vu all over again. I'm sure they are. But remember how things were different back in 1989, where Ed Koch was trying to run for another term and he was losing popularity? This is a whole different story. In this situation, in 2021, we had Eric Adams promised he was going to fix the crime. 30 plus years ago, it was different. You wanted to see a change. That's the theme here. That's going to be the main focus of this campaign. You have two candidates who claim they want to get tough on crime. But history proved back in the 1990s that Rudolph William Giuliani gave New York City its best quality of life in years. Its best quality of life since the 1950s and 60s. It can happen again. But we've got to vote like our lives depended on it. Because if Eric Adams somehow wins, which he still could pull off a coup in Queens, there's a chance he could. You're going to look at the same failed de Blasio policies, which is not good. So, there's a lot of work to do. And a lot's going to have to determine based on the next 3 months that happens in this election cycle. And history showed in 1993, and I'll prove one more point. Giuliani was spending a lot more time campaigning than Dinkins did. There is a slim chance that Eric Adams, who is being, put in leather suits by the establishment in his own party, that he may slack off. I wonder what will happen on October 31st, the last day of the early voting. It's Halloween, right? I wonder if Eric Adams is going to be fooling around on Halloween, because that could hurt him. Yes, it could. Very interesting, right? And by the way, for Curtis Lewa, he better bring back that float. And trust me, Curtis is going to have to go all over Queens. Otherwise, a whole waste of a swing borough doesn't favor Curtis. And favored Rudy Giuliani a long time ago. So let's see what happens in the next 3 months. And lastly, I'm just going to discuss my return to work at Oslam Hall. And I'll briefly mention a couple things about it. So I'm back at work. I'm doing sporadic days because of COVID and, just trying to enjoy my city. And like I mentioned earlier, I've seen Midtown Manhattan get busy again, which is good. And I'm seeing tourists come back. I have been able to get traveling again. And, I'm just glad that I'm doing that. And I'm also glad to be back at work. And I'll just mention on my floor, despite the circumstances, the trials and tribulations with the controversy at nursing homes in New York, that surprisingly, at this moment, I can disclose on my floor, which I'm not going to say what it is for HIPAA reasons, 2 vacancies on my floor. That's a good ratio right there. The good thing is my majority of my pre-pandemic staff is still at my facility, which is good. I lost not too many co-workers. The majority is under, I think, 5. I still got the same administrative staff who keeps the day-to-day operations of my department working. The most important thing about my job, which I've been happy about since I've gone back, is my morning supervisor, who I've known since I've started at my job at Osnum Hall. She always tries to be tough on me, but, I always took it for granted just because we have a church hall in Osnum. I mean, you never think of a shutdown ever happening. You never think of the world going into quarantine. It never comes to mind, right? For 5 years, I never thought of that. But everything that's happened, I get a little choked up on this topic, but I'm just so glad that she is making sure that I'm doing my job correctly. It's a tight watch, and I kind of need that right now. Because not being able to work for almost 2 years and then wondering if you're going to have the same staff. You think about it so much, and then it comes to reality, and you say to yourself, this is the biggest sigh of relief you could have. And I just hope that the resident transport unit in my nursing home doesn't have to shut down again, because things have changed so much where, large-scale activities aren't happening at the moment, which I can understand why. I'm not going to get into, again, those reasons because of HIPAA laws. And there's a lot I can't legally disclaim because, again, state of New York could look into this video and say, oh, he said something that he shouldn't have said, and, trust me. I try to stay on script. But, I'm just glad to be back. And the next couple weeks, I'm going to see if I can hopefully discuss with my activities department how we can do smaller scale events. Originally, when I came back, I said to the administrative staff, let's figure out how bad things get with the Delta. And knowing the circumstances are going to change in the next couple of months, I originally said large-scale events should try to come back in September. Well, I don't think, that could happen. That's all if the Delta could change. And if it doesn't change, then we're going to have to really lay the law down and say, keep the small-scale events until the numbers, start dropping. So I'm just looking at the TV. I'm just keeping an eye on something right now, but I'll just see what happens in the next couple of months and hope there's no shutdown. I've covered everything I need to cover. So thank you all very much for watching Andy Addresses Audience, and maybe things will get a little bit better. We'll see what happens. But I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you all for watching. Until the next one, please take care.